Okay, thanks, Deputy. The next speaker is Deputy Sean Conlan.
Thank you very much. I suppose the first thing I'd like to say, the problems we face as a country are the exact same problems we faced when we came into government 3 years ago. Creation of jobs, unemployment, emigration, personal debt issues, public debt issues. We've gone a long way to tackle some of the major macroeconomic issues, and I think we have to give credit is due over the last 12 months to what this government has done in terms of dealing with the bank guarantee, dealing with the Permission Europe deal, and dealing with the Troika and the removal of the Troika from the country. I think while some people said it wasn't a tangible thing to remove the Troika, I think it's had a massive feel-good factor nationally, and it has helped the national psyche in terms of people now feeling more positive towards the future and the development of this country. And I think the Minister for Finance and the Minister for Enterprise and all the ministers in this government deserve credit for the efforts they have made to try and deal with those legacies of Fianna Fáil. Now, we've created 61,000 jobs in the last 12 months. I believe there's over 19,500 IDA supported jobs in the last 2 years, over 5,000 Enterprise Ireland jobs supported in the last 12 months also. We have long-term unemployment figures are down, and also in my counties along the border, Cavan and Monaghan, long-term unemployment figures are down. I think on the jobs front, though, I think the more needs to be done to develop better infrastructure along the border, and there needs to be more joint up thinking between the state agencies here in the Republic and the state agencies in the Northern Ireland to make sure that the peripheral areas of both the North and the Republic are not left behind. I think it's a legacy of the past that we still haven't got a proper basic road network along the border. It should have been in place for the last 20 years. I know some of the Peace One money went towards reopening roads, but there's been no concerted, cohesive approach to developing those roads. And I mentioned, for instance, the A3 from Monaghan to Belfast. Nothing done. I mentioned the fact that we have a situation at the moment where the UK government is introducing a tax on Irish trucks using Northern Irish roads. We've gained a concession in relation to the concession roads between Monaghan and Dundalk through South Armagh, and the road between Monaghan and Cavan through South Fermanagh. But more needs to be done, and I wouldn't limit it to the A5. I hear a lot of talk about looking for concessions in the A5. All the major A roads, whether it be the M1, the A4, the A5, or the A3 and the A1, they need all to be exempted from this tax. But my preference would be all roads within the North are exempt if we're going to develop an all-Ireland economy, because it's a retrograde step for the British government to introduce this tax. It'll increase transport costs across the island, and it's certainly not to be welcomed. In relation to unemployment, unemployment rates are down significantly over the last couple of years. We're down to 11.9% at the moment. And more needs to be done. And I believe the Action Plan for Jobs, the Jobs Plus scheme, the Youth Guarantee scheme, the local enterprise offices being introduced by Minister Hogan and Minister Britt, all these things will help, I believe, to deal and tackle with the unemployment problem. And I think what needs to be done is to reverse the disastrous economic policies of Fianna Fáil. Fianna Fáil were great for Perth and Melbourne and Sydney and all those cities, because they've got cheap Irish educated labour to go over there and develop those cities. Fianna Fáil were brilliant at exporting our young people to develop those cities. Fine Gael need to get those people back. And I think as skills shortages emerge over the next 18 months in this economy, because of the shovel-ready projects we bring on stream, whether it be in health or education or elsewhere, we need to advertise in those cities and make our young people that are now over there aware of the job opportunities here at home. I think it would be a failure in this society if we fail to bring our young people back. And I think it's a simple thing, but it needs a concerted effort by central government to advertise in those cities, make the people in those cities aware of what's available back at home and get them back home. Now, in terms of investment in shovel-ready projects, our county managers around the country should be mandated by central government to get design and planning out of the way for much-needed projects. So when funds do become available, they go ahead immediately. We're not sitting waiting with a lag of 2 years or 9 months, 12 months before actually we get started on the projects. They should be mandated now to see what's needed in each of the counties, get the design stage out of the way and the planning stage out of the way, because many of their planning offices are underutilised at the moment. And I believe that will pay dividends in the medium rather than the long term. In terms of town centre development, I think we're well in a position now that we can avoid some of the mistakes of the past and even the present. I hate to see a situation that happens constantly where central government or local authorities or state agencies use public money to basically invest in sheds, steel sheds on the edge of town centres, buildings of no architectural merit whatsoever, while our town centres rot and buildings of historical merit and architectural merit are not developed. It's been a failure of this society for many, many years. I think it should be addressed. I think it can be addressed, but it needs a bit of coordinated thinking with the various departments. And I think it's something we need to do now before things start to improve significantly around the country. But the key point and the final point I'd like to make in relation to town centre development, while there's an improvement in retail figures in Dublin and the East Coast, in many parts of rural Ireland and small towns outside the commuter belt, we're not seeing any major uplift in retail. We need to develop a cohesive planning strategy to make sure the communities across the country have proper services in place and some supports are put in place by the state. That's what happens in other economies, other countries. They look at areas of their counties or their country where there are no pharmacies, say, or there are no GPs, or there are no basic services, and they ensure that some state supports are put in place to help make sure that communities have those services. Some people might say that that's a support for retail and manufacturing. We don't want to go down that road. But I think if you want to have a coordinated response to maybe areas where they feel deprived, or maybe have diminished services because of emigration over the years, that needs to be done from a centre level. The free market doesn't always provide those services, and we have an issue, I suppose, in many of our border counties with, and I suppose it's symptomatic of the fact that we're still not as competitive as a society as we should be. It's much easier for foreign countries and foreign companies to win tenders in the Republic than it is Irish companies. So we have to look again at what we can do to make it easier for Irish companies to win these tenders. Fully aware of European law. I'm fully aware of the restrictions on what central government can do. But clearly it's a symptom of what is wrong and what over the last 10 or 15 years, that it's much easier for UK companies to tender and win projects here in the Republic than Irish companies. And as a government, we need to look at what further measures can be put in place to address that balance. Final point. If we can do this over the next 12 or 18 months, and get our unemployment rates down over the next 4 or 5 years to 4, 5, 6%, we have full employment, I think this government will have done this country some service. If we want to develop a mature democracy in this society, we have to get rid of the populist politics of the past, get rid of the stick and plaster politics of Fianna Fáil, and ensure never again do we have the high level of emigration that we've had over the last 10 years. It was a failure of this society in the 1930s, the 1950s and the 1980s that we couldn't educate our young people and find work for them in this country, that we had to send them across the world to find work. This government, I hope, will put in place strong, sound economic measures to ensure that doesn't happen again. I think that's a responsibility of all of us in politics, and it's a responsibility to make sure that the people on the opposite benches do not get back into power to mess up our economy again and leave people with no option but to emigrate again. And I think that really is the key for the government, and I think we are on the right track, and I wish our ministers well in the task in the 12 months ahead. Thank you.